Hi, it's the third video in the series Blue Hand, and today is Tuesday, the 12th of January 2021. So today we are here on the day of alchemy, red electric moon. Red moon is a planetary energy, so it will also correlate to a time on planet Earth when it was red electric moon for a year. So just check that out, and that was 1982. It was the third year of a blue storm cycle. So again, this is the amazing thing about the calendar and how you can use it to cross-reference and be Indiana Jones and dig up some buried treasure to remind you of what you were doing then in order to know where you are now. And I know a lot of people post things about the past best left in the past and don't focus on the past and that sort of thing. But the key understanding that I have is we are the past. We're made up of the past. We're made up of stardust in the very literal sense of we're made up of organic matter. We come from the dust, we return to the dust. Our ancestors' DNA is in us. And there's all sorts of ways that that DNA will play out unconsciously and also consciously. And the more mapping that you do of your own DNA and your own ancestral family tree, highly recommended, you will find so much amazing information that is essential for the human being who is the seeker, who is the seer, who is the tracker in shamanic terms. So we've all got our own particular gifts as to why we come here. And to ones that are attracted to the healing archetypes. And what I offer you now is, this is key for everyone to learn who wants to evolve. So it's got to be high on the list of to-dos, because knowing things intellectually is not the same as embodying them. With us being in Uranus in Taurus transit and lots of things happening with Uranus in Taurus this week, this is about embodiment. We're not who we think we are who we actually physically are and how we are being with our light body in action, taking us through a personal mystery school process, in the global mystery school process of evolving into a loving, respectful human being, free of all the old patterns. So just thought I'd wear my hat today to go with the Indiana process, because I've always loved Indiana Jones films and there's so much truth in them as well. So this is really key. So today, in the alchemy mode, again, watching lots of things at the moment that tie in with that, the synchronicity. Discovery of Witches is playing on Sky TV if you're in the UK, and we're on series 2 now. If you haven't read the book yet, highly recommend it, because there's so much truth in there as well. And that's been a huge pursuit of mine around alchemy, is reading up on things like John Dee, and who was Queen Elizabeth I astrologer, if you don't know. Huge esoteric library in Glastonbury. And of course now, you know, you can source anything on the internet, and I have found some amazing books. So that's really, really key to the process as well, is doing new learning, finding books, finding people, pioneers in their field who are bringing in this amazing new way of working with ourselves, and also ancient way of shamanic healing and finding out what your particular style is as well. So some people like to channel energy, like to channel Reiki, for example. And some people are actually shamanic in the sense of they take on the person's wounding. So because it's their wounding as well, in order to heal it. And so working with emotional freedom technique, this is my style, this is what I do. And I work with people who are my tribe, who are wanting to heal their past stories. And that is essential to what I believe the dream spell is all about, and becoming a clear sign. So my passion is about sharing tools, information, process, and facilitating process with people. So I work with healing modalities, that's the way I look at it, and I have gifts around that. So they go way, way back, of course, in my lineage, in my human being family, and also in past lives, and wherever I come from in the galaxy on one level as well. So again, lots of things to find in doing astrology as well, which again, this week, I've had some amazing insights around asteroids, which are connected to white wizard and red serpent energy. So they're really linked to the asteroid belt. So if that's your Mayan sign, then that's really key for you. Again, you can find lots of books on information about belief systems around where the asteroids come from. They're in between Mars and Jupiter. So again, metaphorically, in one sense, letting go of aggression, the need to fight, very old mindset as well. Instead, we can come into being assertive, being powerful through integrating our aggression experiences. Maybe that we become aggressive because that's a shield that we've learned, a coping mechanism. It could be that we are aggressive with our energy, with our actions. It could be that we are aggressive physically, usually because we're afraid. And that energy has an outcome, though, and is generated from a place of fear. Whereas being assertive comes from having healed those experiences and learning how to work wisely. And it's so key now is to work wisely, because in order to go beyond what we've experienced in other lifetimes around the Inquisition, around being persecuted, for example, we'll all have some ancestral story about that in there, and that may still be playing out for us now. It's to learn from those experiences and to work on the inner level of healing so that we don't repeat those, because hey, we've had that experience, why would we want to repeat it? And that doesn't mean about being passive and aggressive and a doormat. It means about being gentle with ourselves and going at a pace that we can accommodate where we actually are, rather than where other people think that we should be as well. So it's just really taking the small steps. That's what I always look at, taking the small steps. And the calendar is great for that, to allow you to connect to universal energy. Take each day as it comes. If you're feeling overwhelmed, being gentle with yourself and using a practice so you can do something that day. You can focus on something. A lot of the basic day-to-day things, especially what we see as women's work, for example, are overlooked, I believe, as unimportant, but they're what holds everything together. And I noticed this when I was a lot younger and going on all these seminars about how to work out your time, manage your time. But there was never any time management for going shopping for toilet roll or making food for yourself, nutritious food, or making sure you've got a clean pair of knickers. You know, all of this is really important stuff, but it hasn't been factored in often in the past. So who is doing all of this? You know, we've got to look at what's going on in the world around who are doing these activities and actually come into balance with ourselves. Because once you find a way of looking at how you spend your time, and I really recommend doing a time investigation of yourself. What do you spend your time doing? And what do you outsource to other people as well? Because this gives you a real bigger picture about yourself. Do you nurture yourself? Do you spend time every day cooking? Have you learned how to cook? Do you spend every day going out in nature and smelling the roses? Are you healthy in a physical way? And that doesn't mean necessarily going to the gym. It means that you're active, that you're moving around. Do you spend time on new learning every day? And I know for me, I have lots of things that I look at that I find very healing every day, like my plants, like my garden. And so I like to spend time with them. And actually, each day I don't have a huge amount of time to do new stuff, new learning, which is why I get frustrated when all these things that we're supposed to be using, such as WordPress, for example, are constantly changing. And so you allot a certain amount of time to them and then find it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 amounts of time that you don't have. And then something else has to go by the wayside. So really key to focusing on yourself now and looking how you spend your time, looking at how in balance you are in that respect. So again, I know this is like a key life coaching tool that people use. Am I in balance with my health? Am I in balance with my work? What areas am I not in balance in? And I think it is an important exercise to do for ourselves. So today, being the day of alchemy and the third day of the Blue Hand Wavespell, we can really look back at what has been going on since the 15th of December. So again, I'm doing this video to use the calendar. This is how I work with it. So as you can see, we've got the red castle. We began up at the top there, that black square is red magnetic dragon, and that begins the 260-day spiral every time. So it is incredibly complex in the beginning, but it becomes easier over time as you adjust to a new system. And I think, again, this is really key. We've got to adjust to new systems now, and we don't have any choice about it. So, for example, there's lots of information today about, that I've noticed this morning, about joining different social media to match your own values. So some of the social media, without naming names, is becoming very prohibitive and one-sided about what information they share. And of course, this takes us down a whole journey, isn't it? Which is why we have to go through these ways of being to understand the process, because often we don't understand, you know, we get offered things, we don't really look at the small print. Well, I know I don't. And go through unconsciously, blindly, until things start to happen that we don't like and that push our buttons. And make us realize that this system is something that we didn't realize it was. Of course, it often happens in relationship as well, and it is all part of the healing journey and the spiritual path. And that's very much about what this time is about, awakening. So when we start up at the top with red magnetic dragon, although it changes because it's a 9-month process, it's a 260-day process that's in alignment with Venus, we are going through the same process every time on a base level. We're going through, the calendar stays the same, but the astrology changes. That's the key thing, which is why knowing something about the astrology is very, very helpful, because then you start to realize, okay, so this isn't just me. This is something that's going on universally in the starry skies. And then if you choose to learn about your personal astrology, your personal code, you can then see how this astrology affects you, because it affects each person differently, because we've all got different cosmic codes. We're all unique people. So this particular cycle started in Sagittarius Sun, and so we're awakening to our Akashic record. We're awakening to Chiron. And so again, if you're not familiar with any of these terms, please do Google it. And so again, Chiron is very much a Sagittarius figure who is a centaur who has this wound that will not heal. And so in a sense, that's our journey as well. We come in with a mission, and this is about learning how to heal these ancestral wounding patterns. That's what I offer you. And the more energy that we put into that and the focus on that, then the quicker we see things change. The more we put the emphasis there, the more we know ourselves, then we start to feel more and more empowered, and we start to see our energy change and our health change, as long as we start to take action and to create new habits, create new behaviors. So even though it may seem tiresome to shift an entire system, so for me, I have groups established on a certain media, and so part of me is like, wow, I'm going to have to rebuild, or yes, this is what has to happen. Oh, I'm going to have to walk away from that group of friends because they have these belief systems, and yes, that's what has to happen. So part of us doesn't like that because it doesn't like change. But every time Red Dragon comes around, which this time came around on 15th of December for 13 days, we're looking at our survival issues. We're looking at where we're delusional, where we're illusional, where we're going along with something that isn't good for us on every level. So at that time, you were awakening to that. And again, really key to be writing this stuff down somewhere, whether it's on a blog, which is what my blog has been about. I've written a lot about my personal journey, because it is all about I. You know, that's what we come here for, to be an expression of the divine as a personality. So that's the wonder of it, the hero, the heroine's journey. What do we come to learn, to share, to create? That's so key now, shaping our destiny. So we need to know about ourselves. We need to know about our past history. We need to know about how we've come to be who we are. It's really important. And then the next wave spell, which is here. So it runs down the calendar and then up to the top again. So we're here after 13 days on White Wizard. And this is a mastery code. So we've done the first 13 days, and the first 13 days is really all about discovering what we're going to be working with, what we're awakening to in this 260-day cycle. And you have that awareness now at this stage of the game. You know what's been happening for you. Okay, so then you come to white, and the white is then about refining what's happened in the first 13-day cycle. So once you've written down what's happened to you in the first 13 days, then you can start to work with White Wizard, which is, okay, so how did my survival issues come around? How did my nurturing or lack of it come about? What created that learning for me? Because we've all learned as children from other people, haven't we? You know, and lots of other people, not just our mum and dad or our grandparents, extended family. We've learned at school, we've learned through reading, through what we've been exposed to with friends. There's a myriad of ways that we've learned stuff. So primarily who we've spent a lot of time with will have influenced us as well. And of course, for children today, it's very different to when I was growing up as a child, because they have so much internet access. And this is really key. Or in some cases, they have internet access. I know it's not true for everybody in the world. And certainly some families are, especially those involved in social media work, actually, are stopping their children, or have done it right from the word go. They don't allow their children to have too much internet access because of what's going on through behaviour shaping on social media. So again, that's very important, especially applied behavioural psychology that's being used to shape people's behaviour. And again, if you don't know about that, please do your research and check it out, because there's loads out there, and this is happening to us all now through social media and through everything on the internet, through media generally. It is being used to shape our behaviour. So to be very aware of that. So by the time we get to White Wizard, which has just finished, so it finished on the 10th of January. And yeah, just let me check that. Yeah, because we're on the 12th today. So it finished on Sunday, just gone, because we're on Tuesday the 12th today. So over that 13-day period, you would have been then working with what you're already aware of, whether you were aware of it or not, because this is how it works. It's working all the time. What I'm talking about is becoming consciously aware of it and starting to use it as a tool so that you can work in a lot more empowered, knowledgeable way, and really start to focus and use each day to work on yourself, and especially work on being mindful, on being heartful, on really looking at, okay, what does this mean for me? That's got to be the primary focus. And I know if you are a parent, that can be difficult. If you're an empath, if you're a woman especially, the conditioned mindset in most cultural places is on the woman not putting herself first. But these patterns are changing now with the return to balance of the sacred feminine. So it's remembering that reality is what we make it. And although we may have cultural models that we're engaging in and cultural game plans that we are often a part of, we can also be separate from them and start to create a different game plan for ourselves, which is very important in order to be self-empowered. So the previous 13 days, ending last Sunday, you would have been working on how to refine your empowerment issues. By the time that you have got to Blue Hand now, you have all what the alchemist calls a prima materia. Okay, so you've got all your stuff in awareness and how you've been trying to work with it over the past 26 days in the red and in the white. And as we go into the blue, you can then see what the key themes are for this 260-day cycle for you around your own personal Akashic record. So yes, we have gone into the Gregorian year. That's a totally different framework. If you work with the Mayan framework, if you work with this 260-day synergizer, you will start to create a whole different reality for yourself. You will start to really align with the cosmos and the source code, the galactic sun, which is what this is all about. So this language may feel unfamiliar, this framework may feel unfamiliar for you. And if you're drawn to this, and if you're watching this, and if you're working with this already, then it does take time, because we've been coded in a particular way, we've been conditioned in a particular way, and this is changing that for us if we allow it. So it wakes us up to who we really are. It helps us remember why we came here at this time and the amazing being that we are, rather than this limited human being 3D version that plays out on most media platforms now. So, how to work with it? I have been working with emotional freedom technique for the last 13 years. My background prior to that was in working with psychology and really wanting to know more since I had my children in 1995 and 1998. So once I started working with traditional psychology and the Western medical model, I found that extremely limited and knew that I couldn't work in that way. So I didn't go down the formal routes of that. And that's pretty much been my pattern and my life journey so far. I've done things that most of my peers haven't done, so go traveling, go and live in different places, not doing formal education after a certain time period. And because I didn't feel it was genuine, I didn't feel it was about educating me. And I chose to be an autodidactic learner and learn for myself, which is what I've always done. And I have taken formal courses, but I have designed my own way of being. When I came across emotional freedom technique, it blew me away. I was learning NLP, neuro-linguistic programming at the time. And I found with emotional freedom technique, it was far quicker. It was easy, it was simple, even though I didn't know how it worked. It's an incredibly complex system working with the energy meridians. It's been around for 4,000 years. In the East, it's well mapped. It's something that we don't have a lot of conscious awareness of in the West, but that is changing. And I have resources that I've listed on my website of things to read if you're interested. Please message me if you're interested in key things. I just knew that this was going to be life-changing for me. Now, it's still not mainstream in the UK, and I am actively working to change that now, to make that available for people on our NHS, which does belong to the people because we've all paid into it. But we are being shown a way of being healthy, which is connected to selling products to us so that we can stay in situations that we're in. Now, when we stay in situations that we're in, it means often that we're doing things that we don't want to do, that are heartless to us, that somehow we've grown to believe that we have to do these things in order to keep a roof over our head, in order to keep our family happy, etc., etc. And so people often choose to take medications, or they'll do activities that allow them to stay in that situation that they really need to be moving out of. So again, wherever people are, they are where they are. And there are also truths around this as well. And the more that people start to do the research around what does this do to me, for example, with medication, one of the key things that you can always do is look up a pharmaceutical, and you can put on lawsuit when you Google it. And that'll give you a bigger picture overview around people who have used these products and what their experience has been. So again, it gives you access to awareness and knowingness. And I always do this for myself, for my family, and with any clients that I work with, if they want me to do that, if they want me to do some research on anything that they're currently putting into their bodies, because we want to be informed about these things, don't we? We want to know what we're working with. So if, for example, you're feeling depressed, and this is really key to flu, okay? So if you're feeling depressed, then your body starts to do certain processes. So again, Google this and look for yourself, find out about this. Depressed often is connected to repressed. So repressing emotions of anger, sadness, staying in the same situation, not finding a way forward, being stuck in the past, going over old ground over and over again. And whilst a lot of talking therapies are very useful around bringing the inside outside, so often when I'm talking about things to people, I suddenly have a different awareness of what comes out. It's helpful, it's useful. It doesn't change the emotion. This is a key to everything. This is what Blue Storm is all about in the Mayan calendar and Pluto. Our shadow side, our shadow stories. So no matter how much we talk about things that have happened in the past to somebody else, to try and figure out what happened, why it happened, the truth is, often because other people are involved, we'll never know. We try and make assumptions about things. And sometimes it can be a useful exercise to talk about things, talk things through. It can be very useful to talk to people in your family to try and resolve things, to try and explain things. But often in the early stages in families and companies and at school, people aren't used to doing that. They're not very good at communicating. It's often the opposite, that people avoid things that are uncomfortable. They don't want to talk about it. And you'll notice that at the moment, if you raise things, if you raise questions, for example, around what's happening, people can get very uncomfortable about it and they won't talk about things. So there's a lot of fear going on around talking and communication at the moment. And what I've learned over time is you can spend 10 years talking to a therapist about what you think happened in your family, about what you think happened to you, why somebody did it. And you can also use emotional freedom technique to work on, as you're talking about things, to really connect to what is going on for you and what emotion is wanting to come out and be healed. Because one of the ego mind's mechanisms is it's wired not to feel lots of depression, so lots of sadness, lots of anger. If you keep staying in that situation, you can go into clinical depression, for example. If you keep feeling sad, mad, bad, stuck in the old story, then you can start to really go downhill, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And at that point, you're in crisis. So often you don't have the resources at that time to pull yourself out of it. Check out Gabor Mate if you haven't already. He does some amazing videos around addictions. This is often why we get addicted to substances such as sugar that give us a high. If we can't have some sweetness in life, then we're often attracted to putting something into ourselves to change, literally changes our biochemistry. So if we are wanting to escape, for example, then there's lots of drugs out there that help us to do that. But having been a publican for 6 years and seeing people coming in and hearing their stories and, you know, watching them go through a process, the problem doesn't go away. And it's sad for me that most people are stuck in not understanding this and, you know, thinking that they can keep using substances to avoid their issues and becoming more and more ill. So I've seen lots of people actually die. Lots of my customers die over the years, and that was a really key part of my learning process. They told me their stories, and I knew what had led them to this place. This was before I became a holistic therapist. So I've done different things in my life that have been essential for learning about things. And as a blue hand, this is really key for me because this is my passion, is about over my lifetime. I have always had people coming to me telling their stories. And so, especially in my own family, and it was overwhelming at times, it was too much. And even to this day, I can't cope with that. I can't cope with too much overload of people doing story. So as soon as I learned emotional freedom technique, I realized, wow, this is so empowering. Anyone can do it. Children can do it. And children know what their stuff is. So please do the research and have a look out there. If you want to know more about it and more about how I work with it, please do get in touch with me. All the info is there on my website, flowwithjo.com. The more that people start to work on themselves and their emotional issues, become emotional intelligent, learn how to move from still being a child in some ways. We're all still in our childhood in some ways. So this is really, really key. How to reach a place of being our own mum and dad at an age when we can, standing on our own 2 feet, being self-existing. And tomorrow is a really key day for that. So with the new moon in Capricorn coming in tomorrow, and White Self-Existing Dog Day. Here. White dog is a 10th Mayan sign. It's about all our ancestral patterning, and it's about our tribe. So again, the more we heal our wounding, the more that we connect to our soul tribe as well, the more that we connect to Sirius, the central sun, the ancient peoples have always known about these things, regardless of technology, through intuition, through the heart, and through that amazing connector that we all have within us, our spirit. All of this is linked together. Our mind, our body, and our spirit. So in order for us to evolve as an individual, that's the focus on our personal story, finding ways to heal our personal story. The focus isn't on healing somebody else's personal story. And that's often a coping mechanism. It's often a pattern of people who are very empathetic. It's a survival mechanism. It's a tribal surviving mechanism that the carer in the tribe, that's their role. We're going beyond that now. If you're the carer in your tribe and it's too much for you, this is a signal that it's time for change. So, by the time we get to the next sequence of yellow sun, first of all, it's here and it's the last 13-day process in the calendar in the red castle. In itself, it's a clear sign. And the planet is Pluto. So again, it's showing us how much light we hold on an inner level. And what I mean by that is the part of us that is free from our shadow story. The more we get free from our shadow story through healing, through changing our behavior, through changing our amygdala. This is so key to understand this about the role that the amygdala plays. The amygdala is the holographic projector. So we keep experiencing the same experiences until we heal them, until our amygdala knows that we're no longer in that situation, which is when it was first created in the emotional mind. So this is our fight, flight, freeze mechanism that keeps us safe. Without an amygdala, we would be at ground zero every day. We will be walking out into the world not knowing anything about anything. We wouldn't know what was safe, what wasn't safe. The amygdala that we have as a tribe, and of course there's lots of different tribes out there, so again it's cultural as well. It's very geographically unique. Our ancestors have mapped it. And so, again, a lot of this ancient information is hidden from us because of other interference that we've got going on around our mindset. But it's all still in there somewhere. But if we didn't have it, we'd be going out every day and we wouldn't know, for example, that we shouldn't eat certain plants. We wouldn't know that a car could kill us. We'd just literally be fumbling our way around or wildly running around, not knowing anything. Now, on one level, that could be amazing. That could be so liberating. It could also be the end of us very quickly. So I offer you, we have accumulated generally a lot of wisdom in this life. A lot of younger people are free from fear, but they don't yet have experiential learning. So they can be quite naive and gullible and easily manipulated because of that, because they haven't been around on the planet for any length of time. So they haven't got experiential learning. They can also be amazingly connected to source and free of fear. So we all have a filter, we all have a template that we have as an interface of learning in this lifetime. And often that is getting in the way. Often that is limiting us in many ways. And so, again, the way that I've worked with myself and with other people in the past is to look at the life that they want to create now. So somewhere else that they want to be in whatever way. And then look at what experiences have happened to them in the past. So, for example, where they've lost their confidence, they've lost their trust, and they don't feel able to step forward into living a life free of that old story. Being aware of how the amygdala works and how the emotional mind works is amazing. Being able to use emotional freedom technique to work with the triggers every day, work with the wounds every day, work with all our survival issues, work with all our empowerment issues. It's a miracle. It's literally a miracle. It sets us free from our history. And I believe that's what this time is all about. Although it's very challenging, it's showing us where we feel triggered. It's showing us where we feel disempowered, where we feel that we are not equal as a human being, that we are somehow a child that has to be restricted by a parental authority. And again, if you look at the bigger picture, many people are very childlike in their behaviours, including people that are in very high positions of power. So until that changes, there does have to be something in place. And this is all tied into the process, isn't it? Of how do we create a new society in the future that comes out of the ashes of what is happening now. Ideally, that future place will be full of people who take responsibility for their own emotional well-being and to live an empowered, respectful, loving life. To do that requires this inner work of emotional healing. If we don't do this process, then by the very nature of the process, we are stuck on the labyrinth. We are stuck in the old story. Doesn't matter what our job is, doesn't matter where we live, doesn't matter what we know about esoterica. What matters is how we are alchemically working with ourselves. We are the philosopher's stone. So I hope you have an amazing 13-day process. The blue process is really, really a key time to work with emotional freedom technique. I use emotional freedom technique every day. It's part of my daily ritual of healing. I work every day on what my triggers are. I work every day on my storyline, and I use this process, my 52-day code. That's the latest learning for me, and that's what I'm working with as a result of working with this calendar for 10 years. And every day it just gives me new inspiration of how to work with it. If you'd like to know more about the 52-day process and get involved in it, then please do get in touch with me. And I am limited as to how many people I can do this with right now, because it does take a lot of work mapping the code and sending it out every 13 days. So I can only take a small amount of people on at the moment, but if you'd like to be one of them, then please contact me. I hope you have an amazing day. Lots of powerful energy this week, and it's all for the greater human evolution. That's the reframe. And work on whatever you're really feeling too, because that's the essential process. See you soon.